In the next step, you will have to build the controls for the mouth, same as we have done in a previous module for the eyebrows. You just duplicate the templates. You have to then rename them, replace them, and that's it. What I have done here is a suggestion of how you can order your controls for the mouth. Maybe you can make your own thoughts and decide for your own design. In case you want to go with mine, let me just introduce what we're going to do with them. Those controls on the left and right side of the upper part of the mouth controls are the mouth corner controls. They are there for moving the mouth corners up and down and making the whole mouth wide and narrow. The middle control here is for moving the whole mouth up and down. And the smaller controls are for the upper lip, up and down on the left and the right side, and for the lower lip up and down on the left and the right side. This thing down here is for controlling the jaw. So we can of course open and close it. And we can also move it left and right to get a little bit more control of an asymmetry. When you have created those controls, you will in the next step have to connect them by driven keys to the mechanics of your face. I will do that quickly because there's nothing new. It works exactly the way as we did with the eyebrows. Before we go on with setting up the driven keys, I want to emphasize one very, very important thing. Actually, the driven key rig is pretty much straightforward and not so difficult to set up. But it can easily get confusing if certain things are going wrong during that process. One thing is that you always have to make perfectly sure before you are setting a key in the driven key window that the right driver and driven attributes are marked. It gets even worse. Sometimes Maya changes your markings in the set driven key windows of the attributes on its own. So it is even more important that you always check the selection if that is still right, even if you set it the right way before. The other thing that happens easily is forgetting about setting some keys. For example, the key in the neutral pose, which is really easily forgotten. If you don't do that one, then also the driven keys are not behaving later on as you expect them to do. Also here, please be very careful and always remember to first set the neutral key before you go into the extremes. The thing that you have to remember is that when you want to select joints, don't do it with a selection marquee because this does not select all the lips joints, but the ones which are children of the jaw are not selected that way. So what you have to do is to either select them individually or just drag a box around the front joints, so to be sure that you have selected all of them and then additionally select a jaw joint. What you can see in the timeline below is that there is still animation on them, which we created for doing the skin weighting. So this we have to urgently delete. Again, I will select those attributes for that, right click and say delete selected. And now we can go on with the driven keys. While the attributes are still marked, go to the edit menu in the channel box and click set driven key. We will start with creating the channels for the lip corner on the left side. So select the appropriate control and say load driver in a set driven key window. Then we have to not forget to key the neutral pose. That is probably one of the most important things that you have to do. So first of all, you are setting a key on each channel, the horizontal and the vertical one, for the neutral pose. By first selecting Translate Y in the driver section, making sure that all the driven channels are selected, and then pressing key. Do the same for Translate X. Now we can start to define the channels. We will start with the mouth corner going up on the left side. So for this, we first have to place the controller to the extreme position in Translate Y. Make sure that you select Translate Y in the driver section of the driven key window as well. And turn wireframe on shaded on so that you can better see the smoothness of the resulting expression when you move the joints. So let's create the pose for the lip corner up channel. What you have to watch out for here is, for example, the rotation of joints. You can use them, but be a little bit careful with this. What you can see best when you do the rotation on the mid joints is the following. The vertices that are driven by the mid joints are by rotation moved to left and right on the upper and lower side of the joints. That doesn't look natural, as the center point of the movement, the lip corner, is driving all the geometry upwards. The other thing that you should watch out for is checking your pose on each perspective. Because the alignment of the mouth from a side view is rather diagonal, you always have to move the joints forward when you move them upwards and backwards when you move them downwards. It can help to keep the original volume of the head by also rotating the joints and not only moving them. If you are pleased with the resulting shape, then you simply set a key in the set-driven key window. To check whether this is working, you simply have to select the control that drives the channel in a set-driven key window by clicking on it. And to move the control without seeing it, you can simply select the channel that you want to move in the channel box, and then with the middle mouse button pressed, drag in the right direction in the viewport. This way you can also set the control to the other extreme, -10 in that case, to do the pose for the lip corner moving down. Again, watch out for checking the pose in all perspectives from the side and the front, and when you are pleased with the pose, then set a key in the set-driven key window. Afterwards, check the control whether it works when you move it up and down as we have done before. Now you can reset it to the default pose by simply putting a 0 into each of the channels.